Have you ever wondered why the man who seems least invested, least reactive, often becomes the center of everyone's attention? Why the one who withdraws commands respect while the one who chases is dismissed? It is because detachment is not absence, it is power. When you remove your neediness, you remove their leverage. Most people spend their lives proving, justifying, explaining, hoping to be chosen. But understand this, the moment you stop seeking approval, you change the balance of power. You move from being a beggar of attention to its source. People are drawn to what they cannot easily predict or control, and there is nothing more unpredictable than a man who refuses to react on command. Ask yourself, how often do you offer your emotions cheaply, letting others feast on your need to be seen, understood, validated? When you detach, you disrupt this economy. You make them pay in curiosity, in doubt, in obsession. Because mystery is valuable, predictability is disposable. And those who understand this rule do not advertise their intentions. They do not reveal their every thought, they let others wonder. Detachment is not coldness for its own sake. It is a calculated withdrawal. It is the refusal to play the role others assign you. Because every social game depends on roles: hero, victim, pleaser, rebel. When you accept a role, you accept the script. You become predictable. Your enemies know which button to press. Your so-called friends know which flattery will bend you. But detachment is tearing up the script. It is saying, you will not know me so easily. And that ignorance is intolerable to those who seek to use you. They will probe, they will provoke, they will call you arrogant, distant, cruel. Why? Because you refuse to react on cue. Reaction is slavery, detachment is freedom, and only the free man can set the terms of engagement. Consider how often you have handed over power with your emotions. Anger that reveals your wounds, jealousy that exposes your fears, defensiveness that confirms their accusations. All of it is currency paid out without return. Detachment is your refusal to subsidize their power. It is your refusal to grant them access to your internal world without cost. The detached man listens but does not confess. He observes but does not explain. He chooses his silences carefully, and in those silences, others project. They wonder what you know. They wonder what you think. They fill the void with fantasies, fears, desires. You become their mirror, and the more they look, the less they see you and the more they see themselves. That is the secret of influence without force. Ask yourself, why do you need to be understood so badly? Why do you explain your every move, justify every silence, defend every boundary? It is weakness disguised as openness. It is the need to be accepted at any cost. Machiavelli understood that man is governed by appearances, but the appearance you must cultivate is that of control, not need. The moment you show that you cannot be unsettled, you unsettle them. The moment you show that you can walk away, they will follow. Because freedom is magnetic, and the man who does not depend on approval is the most dangerous of all. He cannot be bribed with flattery or threatened with rejection. He has made himself whole. But let us not confuse detachment with indifference. Indifference is apathy, lifelessness, decay. Detachment is focus, discipline, sovereignty. It is the art of choosing where your energy goes and refusing to waste it on petty dramas and unearned intimacy. It is the difference between a fortress and a ruin. A fortress does not open its gates for every visitor. It makes them earn entry. So too must you guard your mind, your emotions, your attention. Because in the currency of power, attention is gold, and most squander it on the worthless. Detachment is your vault. It keeps your wealth secure until you choose to invest. Have you noticed how the quiet man in the meeting commands more respect than the one who rambles? How the lover who holds something back becomes irresistible? How the leader who does not react immediately seems wiser, more formidable? This is not accident, it is design, because restraint is mistaken for depth. Silence is mistaken for knowledge. Detachment creates the illusion of mastery even before you have fully mastered yourself. And in truth, that illusion often becomes reality, because detachment trains you to observe before you act, to measure before you speak, to hold when others grasp. It is the practice field of power. People will call you cold, let them. They will say you are unfeeling, let them. The man who fears these accusations will always be enslaved by them. But the man who accepts misunderstanding has no master. He knows that to lead, you must be willing to be hated, to be respected. You must risk rejection. And to hold power, you must learn to let go of needing anyone's permission. Detachment is not about having no feelings. It is about making your feelings serve you, not betray you. It is the art of keeping your weapons concealed until the moment of need. Consider the enemy who shouts. He reveals his position, his fear, his intent. The detached man waits. He lets the other reveal everything first. In negotiation, this is power. In relationships, it is magnetism. In conflict, it is strategy. Machiavelli wrote that it is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. Detachment gives you the choice, because love offered too freely breeds contempt, but love earned grudgingly commands loyalty. The same applies to your attention, your time, your approval. What is rare is valued. What is abundant is discarded. Be rare. So I ask you now, why do you give yourself so freely? Why do you offer your emotional treasures to those who have not earned them? Why do you explain your dreams, your fears, your boundaries to people who will use them against you? Detachment is the refusal to beg for understanding. It is the refusal to buy love with obedience. It is the refusal to be reduced to a puppet whose strings are emotions others know how to pull. To detach is to reclaim sovereignty over yourself. It is to choose mystery over exposure, strategy over impulse, power over desperation. You must understand that the world rewards those who can control their own impulses. The masses are driven by emotion, reacting to every provocation, every insult, every promise of reward. They exhaust themselves trying to prove their worth to people who will never value them. But the detached man does not play this game. He does not seek validation in the eyes of the fickle. He cultivates patience like a weapon. He knows that power comes to those who can wait while others act rashly. Because in every negotiation, in every seduction, in every confrontation, the one who can afford to wait always holds the advantage. The desperate one reveals too much, too soon. The patient one collects information, tests boundaries, discovers weaknesses. Detachment is not passivity, it is active, strategic observation. Think about how easily people give themselves away. A single insult sends them into fury. A small rejection drives them to beg. A compliment makes them pliable, eager to please. Most are not masters of themselves. They are marionettes, dancing to the strings of anyone who knows which lever to pull. The detached man cuts those strings. He studies his own responses, so he knows where he is weak, where he can be provoked. He closes those gaps. He refuses to offer predictable reactions, and that refusal drives others mad. Because if they cannot predict you, they cannot control you. If they cannot read you, they cannot use you. You become an enigma, and the human mind cannot resist solving a mystery. There is power in silence. When you stop defending yourself, you stop giving them targets. When you stop explaining, you deny them ammunition. When you stop reacting, you force them to face themselves. This is why silence is feared. Most cannot stand it. They will demand explanations, apologies, clarity. They will accuse you of arrogance, of cruelty. They want you to return to the script where your role is to soothe, to serve, to obey. Detachment is your refusal to perform. It is the art of making your absence more powerful than your presence. When you withdraw your attention, you make others question their own worth. When you remove your validation, you reveal their dependence on it. In this way, detachment is the most honest mirror you can hold up to someone. Machiavelli would tell you that appearances are everything. You do not need to show your heart to gain loyalty. In fact, you gain more by concealing it. People respect what they do not understand. They fear what they cannot predict, and they desire what they cannot possess. Detachment cultivates all three. It is the art of strategic withholding. You give enough to intrigue, but never enough to be owned. You share enough to connect, but never enough to be exploited. You care, but not so much that you forget your own interests. This balance is delicate. It requires discipline, but it is the foundation of true influence. Consider the lover who reveals every insecurity, who begs for attention, who floods the other with endless messages. At first, they may be pitied, then they are ignored. Finally, they are despised. Neediness destroys attraction because it reveals weakness. It says, "I cannot hold myself together without you," but the detached lover remains a fortress. He does not close his gates out of fear, but out of discernment. He makes others earn entry, and in earning it, they value it. In valuing it, they respect it. Detachment is the difference between love freely given and love cheaply bought. In politics, in business, in war, detachment is strategy. The general who reacts to every provocation exposes his plan. The negotiator who rushes to agree loses leverage. The ruler, who needs to be loved above all else, becomes a slave to public opinion. Machiavelli warned against this. He taught that the prince must be willing to be feared if it secures stability. Detachment is not about being heartless. It is about being realistic. People are fickle, alliances shift, interests change. If you need constant reassurance of their loyalty, you will never sleep. But if you make their loyalty dependent on their own interests, if you are useful, respected, a mystery, they will cling to you even as they resent you. This is the paradox of power. Ask yourself, how many times have you ruined your position by over-explaining? How many times have you weakened your boundaries by justifying them? How many times have you exposed your plans, your feelings, your vulnerabilities to those who only pretended to care? Detachment is the cure for this self-sabotage. It is the choice to act instead of react, to observe instead of confess, to guide instead of chase. It is not about closing your heart. It is about controlling its exposure. You do not give it to those who have not earned it. You do not waste it on those who would use it against you. You understand its value, so you invest it wisely. Detachment also protects you from manipulation. The manipulator thrives on emotional chaos. They want you reactive, unstable, desperate for approval. They want you explaining yourself endlessly so they can twist your words. They want you apologizing for having needs so they can deny them. When you detach, you deny them these tools. You become unplayable. They will try harder at first. They will escalate. But eventually, they will move on to easier prey. Because a man who cannot be provoked is a man who cannot be controlled. And in this world, control is everything. So I challenge you now. Observe your own patterns. Where do you react too quickly? Where do you give too freely? Where do you explain when silence would suffice? Where do you chase what should come to you? These are your weaknesses. These are your points of entry for those who would use you. Close them, guard them, train yourself to sit with discomfort. Let them wonder. Let them stew in uncertainty. Let them earn your attention, your affection, your explanation, because in doing so, you elevate yourself from the level of the beggar to the level of the sovereign, and only the sovereign can truly choose. Detachment is the foundation of true freedom. Freedom not from responsibility, but from compulsion. Most people imagine they are free because they can do as they please, but they are slaves to their emotions, chained to the approval of others, prisoners of their own need to be seen, understood, loved at any cost. The detached man understands that real freedom is the power to choose how and when to act, without being dragged by impulse or manipulated by expectation. He knows that saying yes has no value if you cannot say no. He understands that giving has no virtue if it is demanded. So he learns to hold back, to wait, to measure. Because restraint is not weakness, it is the highest form of strength. Look at those who are always reacting. They burn out. They are exhausted by drama, conflict, endless apologies. They try to please everyone and end up pleasing no one, least of all themselves. They have no center. They are shaped by every wind that blows, every opinion that is voiced, every fear that is triggered. Machiavelli would see such people as perfect subjects, easily ruled, easily manipulated. They lack the cold lucidity to step back and ask, is this worthy of my energy? Is this battle worth fighting? Is this alliance worth maintaining? The detached man asks these questions constantly. He is not unfeeling, he is selective, and that selectivity is what makes him powerful. Detachment is not about refusing connection. It is about refusing dependence. It is the art of entering relationships without becoming owned by them. You can love deeply and remain detached. You can be loyal without being submissive. You can serve without being servile. Detachment gives you the space to see others clearly, without the fog of need and fear. It allows you to set boundaries without guilt, to say no without explanation, to walk away without regret, and this terrifies people, because most rely on your inability to do these things to get what they want. When you can walk away, you become the one with leverage. You decide the terms. Consider the nature of seduction. It is never about complete disclosure. It is the dance of revelation and withholding. It is the art of suggestion. The man who says everything immediately kills the mystery. The man who offers his soul for free cheapens its value. But the one who reveals himself slowly, who remains just out of reach, commands fascination. Detachment is the engine of desire, because humans crave what they cannot easily possess. When you are always available, always affirming, always explaining, you suffocate that desire. But when you know how to hold back, to create space, you allow curiosity to grow. You make them invest, and what people invest in, they value. This is not cruelty. It is respect for yourself and for them. Because when you force someone to earn your trust, your attention, your vulnerability, you are treating those things as the precious resources they are. You are saying, I know my worth. I will not give it away cheaply. And in doing so, you encourage them to rise to the level of deserving it. Detachment sets a standard. It says, if you want access to me, you must prove your value. You must show respect. You must bring something to the table beyond need and demand. This is the essence of power dynamics in any relationship. Those who set the standards control the interaction. Machiavelli understood that power was not simply the ability to command, but the ability to create conditions in which people choose to obey. Detachment creates those conditions. It makes you the one who is chosen, not the one who begs to be picked. It makes you the one who defines the pace, who decides when and how much to reveal. It forces others to adapt to you, and in this adaptation, they reveal themselves, because people will show you who they are when they want something from you. Your silence, your refusal to react, your patience, these are the tools that unmask them. They will try to provoke you, to make you lose composure, to get you to explain yourself. Resist, observe, let them expose their intentions while yours remain hidden. Ask yourself, how many times have you surrendered your power because you could not bear the discomfort of being misunderstood? How often have you filled the silence with explanations that only weakened your position? How often have you responded immediately out of fear that waiting would cost you approval? These are the reflexes of the powerless. Detachment is the cure. It is the practice of holding steady in the face of discomfort. It is the willingness to be seen as arrogant, distant, uncooperative, if that is the price of keeping your sovereignty. It is understanding that you do not owe everyone access to your thoughts, your feelings, your plans. Access is earned, not owed. There will be those who resent this, who will call you selfish, unfeeling, manipulative. Let them. Their accusations reveal more about their dependence than your character, because in truth, they want you pliable, available, easy to read, and easier to use. Your detachment deprives them of this. It forces them to deal with themselves. It denies them the emotional chaos they feed on. And this is why it is so threatening. The detached man does not provide the easy narrative. He does not play the expected role. He offers no convenient mirror for their projections. Instead, he becomes a blank slate upon which they must confront their own neediness, their own insecurities, their own schemes. So understand this. Detachment is not the death of connection, but its purification. It filters out those who want you only for what you give them, leaving only those who value who you are. It forces clarity. It demands respect. It elevates every interaction because it refuses to settle for anything less than mutual value. This is why it is irresistible. Because in a world full of cheap validation and hollow intimacy, the man who knows how to hold himself apart, who knows how to be alone without being lonely, becomes rare, and what is rare is desired. Detachment is an art that requires discipline most will never master. It is easy to proclaim independence while you are untested, easy to talk of boundaries when no one is pressing them. But the true test of detachment is what you do when the pressure mounts, when someone you want begins to pull away, when the world demands that you justify yourself. Most will crack. They will rush to explain, to appease, to reclaim lost closeness. They will trade their dignity for a moment of relief. The detached man does not. He endures the discomfort. He understands that the cost of giving in is far higher than the price of waiting. Because once you show that your boundaries can be negotiated with pressure, you teach others how to break you. Detachment is the refusal to negotiate your self-respect. Observe how quickly people will try to break your detachment. They will test you with silence, with accusations, with emotional outbursts. They want to see if you will return to your old patterns, if you will plead, explain, compromise your stance to win their approval. Machiavelli would tell you this is human nature, power always tests weakness. The strong provoke the weak to see if they will submit, but when you remain still, when you let their rage crash against the walls of your calm, you reveal who truly holds power. Detachment is that wall. It absorbs their noise without crumbling. It lets them tire themselves out while you watch, unshaken. But do not mistake detachment for cruelty. It is not about withholding love or connection to cause pain. It is about ensuring that what you offer is not abused. A ruler does not make alliances with every supplicant. He chooses partners carefully. A general does not reveal his strategy to every spy. In the same way, you must guard your emotional resources. People who demand constant access to your mind and heart will rarely respect what they find there. They want it cheap. They want it easy. They want it on their terms. Detachment is your refusal to sell yourself at a discount. It is the recognition that anything valuable must have a cost. Consider how many relationships fail because one party becomes too predictable, too available, too eager to please. They smother mystery. They remove the tension that keeps desire alive. They forget that humans crave the chase, the uncertainty, the sense of earning what they receive. When you offer everything freely, you strip away the possibility of value. Detachment restores that value. It does not deny connection, but it demands that connection be chosen, not coerced. It says, if you want my time, prove you deserve it. If you want my trust, earn it. If you want my heart, show you can hold it with care. And those unwilling to meet that standard will complain, accuse, and eventually disappear. Let them. Machiavelli knew that loyalty bought too cheaply is loyalty that will betray you. The prince must inspire respect, even fear, if he is to maintain order. Likewise, you must command respect in your personal life. You do this not by aggression, but by control of yourself first, by showing that you do not depend on anyone's affection to feel whole, by demonstrating that you can walk away rather than compromise your dignity. This is the essence of power, to be needed but not needy, to be wanted but not desperate, to be valued because you do not beg for value. Detachment is not about being unloving, it is about being unowned. And so I ask you, when was the last time you let someone earn your silence? When did you last hold back an explanation, an apology, a reassurance they did not deserve? When did you last sit with the discomfort of being misunderstood, rather than surrendering your truth for easy approval? These are the tests of detachment. They are not easy. They require you to embrace loneliness. They demand that you choose respect over popularity, substance over comfort. But this is the price of sovereignty. You cannot lead if you cannot stand alone. You cannot command if you cannot hold your tongue. You cannot inspire if you cannot first resist. People will not understand this. They will say you have changed. They will say you have become distant, cold, calculating. Let them. Their discomfort is proof that your old self, the always available, always explaining, always pleasing version of you is gone. In its place stands someone who understands his worth, who refuses to be manipulated by guilt or expectation. This is not arrogance, it is clarity, and clarity is always uncomfortable for those who relied on your confusion. Detachment will cost you. It will cost you certain relationships, certain comforts, certain illusions. But what it gives you in return is priceless. It gives you the ability to choose who enters your life. It gives you the freedom to walk away from disrespect. It gives you the strength to endure being alone rather than being used. It grants you a presence that commands attention without demanding it. Because true magnetism is not in shouting your value, it is in knowing it so deeply that others feel it in your silence. That is why detachment is irresistible. It makes people wonder. It makes them chase. It makes them respect what they cannot so easily grasp. So understand this, you cannot fake detachment. You cannot pretend to be unbothered while seething inside. You cannot mouth the words of indifference while your actions scream need. Detachment begins within. It is a discipline of thought, of emotion, of action. It requires you to confront your own fears of rejection, your own need for validation, your own terror of being alone, and it demands that you master them. Because only when you can sit with your own discomfort can you refuse to buy relief at the cost of your integrity. Only then can you hold yourself apart, not in bitterness but in strength. Detachment is not built in moments of ease, but forged in the crucible of discomfort. It is easy to appear calm when no one is testing your patience, to seem independent when no one is pushing your boundaries. But the world will not leave you in peace if it senses your weakness. It will probe for your insecurities, exploit your desire to be liked, use your fear of rejection to bend you to its will. This is why most people live as servants to the opinions of others, forever adjusting themselves to avoid conflict, forever explaining themselves to avoid being disliked. The detached man knows this dance, and he refuses to participate. He would rather be hated for his silence than loved for his surrender, because he knows that every time you betray yourself to buy peace, you pay with your dignity. Watch how people will escalate when you refuse to react. At first, they will coax you, then guilt you, then threaten you. They will tell you that you owe them your time, your attention, your explanation. They will accuse you of arrogance, of betrayal, of being heartless. And perhaps you will be tempted to respond, to defend yourself, to prove that you are good, kind, reasonable. But understand, the moment you do, you surrender the frame, you accept their premise, that your worth depends on their approval. Detachment is the rejection of that premise. It is the refusal to enter a debate about your value. It is the quiet declaration, I do not owe you access to me. Machiavelli understood that appearances can be controlled, but true power lies in making others reveal themselves. When you remain silent under pressure, when you hold your boundaries without explaining them, you force others to show you who they really are. The respectful will accept your limits, the manipulative will escalate, the insecure will accuse. In their reaction, they show their character. Detachment is the ultimate test, because it requires you to tolerate the discomfort of being misunderstood, while gaining the clarity of seeing others without their masks. It is a filtering mechanism. Those who cannot respect your space do not deserve your closeness. Consider how much energy is wasted on pointless battles, on defending boundaries that need no defense, on explaining decisions that require no justification, on apologizing for having needs. Detachment is the discipline of conserving energy for what matters. It is saying no without guilt, ending conversations without regret, walking away without fanfare. It is understanding that not every accusation deserves an answer, not every invitation deserves acceptance, not every conflict deserves your participation. The detached man does not fight every battle. He chooses the ones that matter, and in choosing he multiplies his power. Detachment also reveals the difference between influence and control. Most people try to control others by pleasing them, by explaining themselves endlessly, by sacrificing their own needs for approval. This does not create loyalty, it breeds contempt. Because what is too easily given is too easily dismissed. Influence, by contrast, is born from restraint. When you hold yourself back, when you do not reveal everything, when you force others to come to you, you create intrigue. You give them space to wonder, to invest, to choose you freely. And what people choose freely, they value. This is not manipulation, it is respect for human psychology. It is understanding that true connection cannot be coerced, it must be earned. Ask yourself, who are you when you stop performing? Who are you when you stop reacting to every demand? Who are you when you stop explaining yourself? The answers to these questions are uncomfortable because they force you to confront the possibility that much of your identity is built on pleasing others. Detachment is the stripping away of these false layers. It is the commitment to stand as you are, even if it means standing alone. It is the realization that approval is cheap if it is bought with self-betrayal. It is the acceptance that not everyone will like you, that not everyone will stay, and it is the understanding that this is not a loss, but a liberation. Machiavelli wrote that it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. The modern ear recoils at this, but what he meant was that stability, respect, power, these require boundaries. And boundaries mean that sometimes you will disappoint, anger, even frighten those who would rather have you soft, pliable, and compliant. Detachment is what allows you to hold those boundaries without flinching. It is the refusal to let fear of conflict weaken your position. It is the choice to be respected rather than liked, to be valued rather than consumed. So I ask you now, are you willing to be misunderstood to protect your peace? Are you willing to be called cold to maintain your dignity? Are you willing to lose those who only wanted you compliant? Detachment demands these sacrifices. It is not for the faint of heart. It is for those who have decided that their integrity is worth more than universal approval. It is for those who understand that love offered without respect is worth nothing. It is for those who are ready to be rare, even if that means being alone. Because in the end, the man who can stand alone is the one everyone else must reckon with. And this is why detachment is irresistible. Not because it promises easy comfort or constant applause, but because it radiates an unspoken challenge. It says, I will not beg, I will not chase, I will not explain. If you want me, you must come correct. You must respect my terms. You must earn my presence. In a world desperate for validation, this stance is magnetic. It draws in those who are tired of the cheap and the easy. It commands respect from those who can offer it. And it weeds out the weak, the needy, the manipulative. Detachment is not the end of connection. It is its highest form. Detachment is not the absence of feeling. It is the mastery of it. The man who is truly detached is not numb, unfeeling, or dead inside. On the contrary, he feels deeply, but he does not allow those feelings to govern him. He understands that emotion is fuel, but only discipline turns it into fire that warms rather than burns. He knows that reacting immediately is surrendering control to others, giving them the map to his insecurities, the keys to his mind. Detachment is choosing to feel everything while showing only what serves his purpose. It is the art of owning your emotions so completely that no one else can use them against you. You will find that as you become more detached, you become more observant. Where once you filled silence with explanations, you now let others talk themselves into revealing their true motives. Where once you reacted defensively to insults, you now watch them expose the speaker's character. Where once you begged for attention, you now command it simply by withholding it. This is not manipulation in the cheap sense. It is the natural gravity of someone who is centered, calm, and unbothered by the need to prove himself. Machiavelli would tell you that power lies in appearing unneedy, because need is leverage given away freely. The man who needs nothing cannot be pressured. The man who can walk away is the one everyone wants to keep. Detachment is not isolation for its own sake. It is not about hiding forever behind walls. It is about creating standards for entry. It is about becoming a fortress with gates that open only for the worthy. It is the refusal to let the untested, the disrespectful, the entitled walk freely through your life. In relationships, this means not giving your heart to someone who has not earned your trust. In business, it means not revealing your strategy to those who would use it against you. In friendship, it means not pouring your soul into those who only want to gossip, complain, or drain you. Detachment sets the price of admission high, and only those who see your worth will pay it. There is an irony in all this. The more detached you become, the more people want your presence. The less you explain, the more they want to understand you. The less you chase, the more they pursue. The less you need, the more valuable you seem. Because human psychology craves what is scarce, resists what is forced, and desires what is earned. This is why detachment is irresistible. It is not about playing games, but about refusing to play theirs. It is about standing so firmly in your own value that others cannot help but recognize it. It is about being the prize rather than the pursuer. But understand, this path is not for everyone. It will demand that you learn to live without constant reassurance. It will ask you to embrace the silence that comes when you no longer perform for approval. It will test you with loneliness, with rejection, with the accusations of those who benefited from your old compliance. You will be called selfish, arrogant, aloof. Let them speak. Their words are weapons meant to draw you back into the game, to make you justify yourself, to lower your standards. Detachment is refusing to pick up those weapons. It is smiling at their rage and saying nothing. It is letting your silence do the talking. Machiavelli wrote that it is better to appear merciful, loyal, humane, upright, and religious, but to be capable of the opposite when necessary. Detachment is this principle in action. It is the ability to be kind without being exploited, generous without being depleted, open without being exposed. It is knowing that your softness is a choice, not an obligation, that your love is a gift, not a debt, that your time is an offering, not a guarantee. Detachment allows you to give freely because you know you can also withhold. And this balance is what keeps others honest, respectful, careful with what you offer. So ask yourself now, are you ready to become rare? Are you prepared to be the one who cannot be summoned with guilt or need? Are you willing to be the person who can walk away without looking back? This is not cruelty, it is clarity. It is the refusal to mortgage your peace for someone else's comfort. It is the decision to prioritize your truth over their narrative. It is the discipline to wait, to watch, to choose carefully who you allow to influence you, touch you, love you, Because in the end, detachment is not the death of connection, it is its purification. It burns away the false, the needy, the manipulative, leaving only what is real. And this is the promise of detachment, that when you stop being available to everyone, you become indispensable to the few who matter. That when you stop giving your energy to the unworthy, you have more to give to those who earn it. That when you refuse to react, you regain the power to act. And in this way, you become the architect of your own life, rather than the servant of everyone else's. Detachment is not the final destination, but the gateway to true freedom, true power, true love, that is chosen rather than owed, given rather than demanded, respected rather than consumed. If you've made it this far, it's because a part of you is already ready for this shift. A part of you already understands that being accepted means nothing if you have to betray yourself to earn it. True self-respect begins when you choose your own standards, even if it means standing alone for a while. Now tell me in the comments, are you ready to be misunderstood, rejected, even criticized for protecting your own boundaries? Are you willing to pay the price of being true to yourself? If this message spoke to you, if it made sense, write in the comments, I choose my strength. Let's see how many here are ready for this transformation. And don't forget, keep watching the next video. It matters much more than you might realize. See you there.